time if you want, but and then towards the end we will do a little bit more Q&A. But thanks for showing up, guys. Just give others one more minute to jump on. I had a question. Hi, Nico. I had a question for you guys. Which time is better, 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. for you guys? You can message in the chat. If you have a preference. No preference? No problem.
I'm wondering if you're able to send messages.
Yeah, it's on. Everyone can send a message.
Okay.
When I saw you jumped out for a half a second. I was just asking if you guys have a preference in terms of 5 or 7 p.m. for this session, for these sessions moving forward. Okay. Abigail, welcome. All right, I think we can get started. I will do some housekeeping first, guys. Thanks again. I recognize a couple of you from our last virtual session, which was very exciting and engaging. We're gonna have another great one today with Mariah, and we'll start in a second. But I just wanted to bring up some stuff. You know, the program has certain components, and we want everyone to take full advantage of it. So, just a reminder. What we're doing now is we have our videos on the Smart Term portal, which everyone needs to go on and watch. And there are some quizzes there to answer. And so that is how you complete the program. So there are 3 videos, introductory videos, as well as if you weren't here for the last virtual session, Alexis's video is up there, or interview, and you can watch that and complete that quiz as well. So in order to complete the program, everyone needs to complete the quizzes. Also, we have a challenge going on right now. So if you go into Smart Term, and I think if you check your email as well, you will see that the challenge is up. And the challenge, I believe, was slated to end today. We're going to extend it a little bit longer. We are still enrolling persons in the program. If you have friends or if you know anybody who would want to be a part of this, please tell them to come sign up, and we'd be happy to have them. And the way the program is that they can obviously catch up with anything that they've missed so far. So spread the word, let them know. That's it for me in terms of any catch up. But please drop your questions in terms of anything to do with the program in the chat. We'll get to them before the end of this. And so without further ado, I will just introduce Mariah Ramharack, who is anchor at Sportsmax and the Sports Zone. She is going to be talking to us about effective research and interview techniques. Mariah, hello, how are you?
I'm good, and hi to everybody who joined. I'm so excited to, get their questions, interact with them. So I'm looking forward to that part of today, mainly.
We're so happy to have you. Thanks again for agreeing to be a part of this program. Tell us, just before you begin, I think you said it in your video, but what made you decide to be a part of this program?
Well, firstly, I think when you reached out to me and you said it involved young minds, youngsters, that spoke to me already because of the fact that I think when I wanted to do journalism, there weren't opportunities like this at such a young age where you could interact with people that are doing the same thing, maybe you're interested in. It was never an option. So for me, I'm so happy that, I can give back. I can probably inspire or influence some of their decisions. So to me, that's the main goal in all of this, just hoping that, they can ask their questions and the opportunity that I didn't have, they have that opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks again. So as I said, we're going to be doing effective research and interview techniques. And, when you think of sports coverage, yes, obviously showing the game on TV, showing highlights, all those things. But one part that people always look forward to is like a post-game interview, or I don't know, at least for me, one of the most interesting things is sitting down and watching that documentary about an athlete, like, and their life and everything that came together to make them who they are. And they touch on such deep, personal levels. Talk to us, tell us, what's the aim or the point of like these interviews, and how do you approach them?
Well, the first thing you asked is what's the aim, right? So I think journalists and sports journalists, they play a very, very important part because they have access to information on athletes in a way that, the regular man on the street may not have access. So for me, the aim, of course, is to get as much information and ensure that those that are tuning into the interview gets proper insight into the lives of these people, things that are happening. Sports is something that is so trendy, so catchy that, I tend to say like it's a escape away from everyday life. So our goal now is to get the best interview, the most amount of information and present it to our viewers in, I'd say, an enjoyable manner.
Nice. Yeah. So in terms of like the impact that you think this side of sports reporting can have on just the excitement or the experience, tell us a little bit about that. What does it add to, I guess, your story, the story that you're telling in these interviews?
Well, you speak about impact, and I've seen instances where investigative journalism, or especially in sport, because we're talking about sport in this particular scenario. I did news as well. So from time to time, I might switch, right? But there have been so many investigative sport journalism pieces that have impacted lives positively. So for me, like, let's just say racism, because recently, for those of you that watch football, on the weekend, there was the El Clasico with Barcelona and Real Madrid. Barcelona won, just by the way. But they were coming out of the match, and it was such a beautiful match. There is that ugly topic of racism rearing its head and taking away from the beauty of the match. And there are some journalists that, have made it their duty to do research and to cover that aspect of it. And it's being done in the hope that they can make a change one day, that you can educate somebody else so that, they think twice before, being racist to another person, another fan, a player, and all of that.
Wow, interesting. So you think that it has the possibility of like changing behavior, shedding light on these social issues. Okay. Well, you spoke about racism, and I'm sure there are other very hot topics in sports that you could cover. What kind of research would you say is necessary before you approach a topic like that? How do you conduct? Tell us about your process of research before you go into the conversation.
What I will say is I started this profession at a very young age, right? When I was checking back, I started in 2016. So next year will be 10 years that I've been doing news and sports, which sounds like, wow, 10 years. Like, it felt like just yesterday. So for me, I will say to any young journalist, because when I started with like a lot of seasoned people like Lance Whitaker, if anybody used to watch like RJR and all of that, and then George Davis, he will be a part of this interview process. It's a Goalside reporters going forward. So I started with 2 seasoned journalists, and I started, not so seasoned. But what I will say is that with time, your process will change. So like as a new reporter, when you get into the business, you're going to try to learn as much things as you can, but then you're going to start living the experiences. So you're going to start attending the matches. You're going to start making your own contacts where you could pick up the phone and call the Jamaica football president on your own. But as I said, there is no set way in doing this thing, because Lance can come on, who is one of my co-hosts for the Sportsmax Zone, and say something totally different from what I'm saying now, because his process will be very, very different from mine. On a daily basis, though, I get up and I tend to read like all the sporting headlines. That's part of my new process, because it was never like that when I started. So all of that to say is that there's no one set way in doing interviews. But my style personally is to get up and, read as much things that I can read. Of course, if it's an interview, let's just say like, Andrew, you're coming on my show to talk about this ISSA Goalside Reporters Program. I want to see, what is the aim of this program? What are you hoping to achieve at the end of it? Who's your target audience? Is it free? Do the participants have to pay? So I start thinking like that. But again, as I said, every interview is going to be very different. The process, because if I'm talking about Eric Ten Hag, I'm not calling Eric Ten Hag to ask him if he's been sacked. And, we're in the Caribbean, so we don't have that sort of access. Like Alexis, who was on the first class, she works for ESPN. She's always around them. She might quicker be able to say, hey, Ten Hag, what happened? So again, it goes back to the same point I was making. Different access, different process based on the journalist.
Okay. You said you read the headlines every morning, and you also mentioned, you pick up the phone, probably call someone. What are the tools or the resources that are there? Like I didn't even, well, I'm not an interviewer, but like I didn't think about calling around, people who know the person. Is that something that you do as well? How important is that? And, any other tools or resources that you know or use a lot?
It's so, so important. And I'll start by, one of my pet peeve would be pronouncing somebody's name wrong, right? So let's just say, for example, there can be, okay, your name is too common, so I can't use that. Okay, let's just say Jessica Yapchung, right? Let's just say the Y in Jessica's name could have been pronounced as, I'm just saying, this is an example, maybe as a J in another country, right? So one of the things I try to do, because I think you lose a lot of respect when you pronounce people's names wrong, right? So what I try to do, so sometimes I might be talking about this Barbadian cricketer on my show, and his name might just be spelled like Sean, but it's not Sean, it's pronounced like John. I'm just saying, right? So I tend, when the names are very tricky, to just call another journalist in Barbados and say, hey, I'm going to talk about this cricketer on the show. How do you pronounce it? I think you get a lot of respect from simple things like that, as opposed to going on the show, calling the man a whole wrong name, making a strong statement about him. And then, you know what? I look like the mad person, because that's not even his name. That's not how they pronounce it. And the Bajans that are tuned into the show are going to be like, okay, mad lady.
She don't know what she's talking about. That's because that's something Alexis brought up. I mean, in specific, just saying, when we asked her what's the challenges that she faces, she says that she's a woman. So, like, that's been the biggest, proving that she should be there. And she mentioned pronouncing somebody's name wrong. It cannot do that. So that's an excellent point. Thanks for bringing that back up. And trust me, I mean, I've been working with ISSA. They're very creative with names in schoolboy football and champs, and it's not always a first goal. So, I mean, something definitely to look, pay attention to. In terms of now setting like the scene for an interview, you can do an interview in studio. I don't know how important, you can let us know where you do conduct an interview with someone. Does that play a big role in planning? If it's at their house, if it's at the stadium, if it's at the training ground, if it's at the studio, does that make a big difference in your opinion?
I feel like setting is crucial, but not, I wouldn't say a big part, right? Because I did an interview recently for Sky Sports in London, but I did the interview here. It was with the head coach of the Jamaica football team, right? And I was talking to Steve McLaren, but it was done at the JFF. And one of the instructions that I got from Sky Sports is it's supposed to be relaxed and stuff. Now, I'm at the JFF headquarters. There's nothing relaxed about there. I just want to start. It's like a meeting room, there are other media houses and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, Mariah, well, you need to nail this assignment. It's for Sky Sports. You want to do your very best. But you still want to give them what they asked for, because there's no way I can sit there now, like in this uptight interview. They don't want that. They just want to see Steve McLaren and I chilling doing this interview. So the first thing coach said is he was feeling for coffee. And I'm like, okay, great. Coffee means we're chilling. Like, we're getting to the point. And to me, this setting did affect the interview. And I say that because, remember, there's always an aim that you're trying to get out of a particular interview. Now, if it's let's just say a battle, like a one-on-one discussion where, Andrew, you're the head of an organization, you haven't been doing a good job, you're coming on my show, we're going to be asking you hard questions, you're probably going to have major rebuttals, and it's going to be an argument, it's going to be heated. That is a totally different set. And there's no way you and I could sit there having coffee, chilling, and think the interview is going to turn out how I want it. So I would say that setting affects an interview to a point, but it's not the be all or end all of it. But you'll know what type of interview you're going to have based on the setting.
Okay, cool. So, I guess this also is related to the whole setting the scene. How do you build rapport before an interview, or to make sure you have things go smoothly? Is there any special techniques that you can let us know before that camera presses record? What do you do?
I think I just like to make small talk. I'm very chatty. I get paid to talk, right? So when you come on my set, I'd probably be like, if I had any questions, let's just say I probably didn't know how to pronounce your name before I came, and I'd just be like, just checking, right? This is how you say it. And then I'd probably be like, so this initiative, and in those 2 minutes, you can get so much information from your guests. You can get them to relax. Sometimes I even say like, hey, remember to put your phone on silent, right? Just to get them at ease, knowing when the interview starts, we're on and all that kind of thing. So, it's not much time that I get. You've seen how our show goes. It's like really quick and one guest on, next guest on. So it's not like I have like all day with this one person. It's like 7 minutes and then you're off and another one comes on. But within that 2 minutes, it's so important that you have to say something to your guest. They're coming on. It's like you're coming into my home. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. And it's so important that your guest feels comfortable, because that's when you get them to talk, right?
Okay. So now when you're doing the interview, I know you're a professional, so you're probably beyond this, but like there are questions of course that you need to tackle. Do you have like a written set of questions, or is it like you're just gonna flow and see where it takes you? Or what do you recommend for someone who's also just starting out? How do they do that?
Well, the key is to have an idea as to what you want to get out of the discussion. One of the things I felt like I messed up in, and I would say don't do that, is when I now started, which is in 2016, I would write what I wanted out of this entire interview from start to finish. That's crazy. And you know why? Because your discussion never goes the way that you planned, right? So I'm like asking the first question, then looking to see what's the second question. But the chances that the man would have said something else that makes no sense for the second question I had planned. But because I'm not listening to what the man is saying, I might even ask a question that he answered already, because I have a plan and I'm just trying to go through this plan. So I would say is a combination. Yeah. You write some stuff down, you jot a couple notes, but do not be reliant on it, because if you become over-reliant on this, you're not listening. And the key in any interview is to listen to what the person is saying, because they might be saying something even more important than what you had planned to ask in this list. So key, listen.
I'm having flashbacks of asking a question, and in mid-question, like, wait, he already answered that, or they already answered that.
But you didn't know, right? Because it was a listening, you're trying to.
Exactly. So, it leads us to my next, question, being present, listening. You kind of said it, but when someone is talking, what do you need to do and what do you need to not do in order to, have a good interview?
Well, you need to not cut the person. Try not to cut in, because then you look really messy. So that's the first thing I would say, because one of the things I hate to look at is watching back an interview, and not about me, because I tend not to cut. I will let you speak unless the time is running out, and then I'm like, okay, you're not making any too much sense. We need to like wrap or whatever, right? Doesn't happen often though. But I hate to sit and watch an interview where every minute the person is like cutting out the person, the guest, and then they're not able to make their point. So I'm wondering, what type of interview is this? Is it the your show, as in the host show, or are we giving the guest a platform to answer the questions? That's something I don't like, and I don't like hearing while the person is talking as well. Like, just sit and listen, and your chance will come. And don't get me wrong, some of these guests, they tend to go on and on if you leave them. So there are times where you have to cut them, because I mean, in my case, my show is 90 minutes. One guest might just be allotted 10 minutes. So there's no way I can sit and allow them to talk through. But I could say something simple like, okay, that's a good point. But just for the 30 seconds that we have left, can you just, tell me, and I would make sure and say with 30 seconds, in 30 seconds, tell me where we can buy these tickets. So they know, like, yo, you only have 30 seconds. But you're doing it in a very professional, very tasteful manner, not saying, well, okay, we're going to have to wrap up now, and that kind of way.
Well, I mean, one thing for them to talk too much. Suppose they're not talking at all. Like,
I've had so many of those. But that's where I think that's where that 2 minutes before the person comes on and goes live, that's where it's so crucial that you have that icebreaker. And what I tend to do is, because I feel like, especially the younger footballers and the younger cricketers, younger athletes, remember, they know how to do their sport very well. They were not trained to talk. That's not their job. Many of them also are very afraid of the media. They think that, journalists don't have their best interests at heart, and they're just going to take one thing and turn it into bad, right? So what I tend to do is, like, let's just say I interview somebody and I realize, well, they're not too comfortable. I sometimes even make jokes, as strange as that might seem, because I just like say something funny and then just allow them the opportunity to loosen up. But again, it comes with time, it comes with experience, because if you yourself as a host not comfortable, then there's no way you're going to be able to make somebody else comfortable. And I'm speaking from experience. As I said, I started this thing at a very young age, and the command that I have for it now was not the same when I started. So just to the students that have joined and all of that, I'm just trying to say, just be patient with yourself. It will come in time. Trust me. Take it from me.
Thanks for that. I mean, I do have a little experience at Champs or at schoolboy football, and as you said, a lot of these students they're not trained to speak in public forums. Most people aren't. Most people get very nervous and knock up. It comes with time, like with the professional athletes. But it's so difficult. I mean, just to get more than a 1 or 2 word answer out of them, it really pushes you to think in a different way. How do you get this person to loosen up a little bit or say something a little more? So thanks for those tips. That's really helpful for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's also the issue of sensitive topics. So I don't know how much scandals or things that you've had to take a deep dive into. Is there special preparation for that, or special handling for things that are very sensitive? I guess a firing would be one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been involved in many of those touchy subjects, to the point where, they would have escalated. I've had interviews on set where the guest wasn't very happy and would have been like really irate on TV. You could tell how angry they were. They were telling us off live. But, you ask the question as to, how do you deal with topics like that, and preparation in relation to those interviews, right? One of the things I will always say is, when you sit on any platform and you're going to be that voice of authority, you're going to have to do a lot of research. You really need to prepare for both sides, because in that moment, anything can come at you. Whenever I prepare for an interview, I tend to think about not just what I want to get out of the interview, but what is this guest going to tell me from their point of view? right? You have to have a lot of you have to fact check, because you can't have a guest come on your program and then of course they're telling you all these things and you have no clue what they're talking about, and you're facilitating the discussion. So as a host, I would say you need to prepare for all the possible scenarios that could come at you, because in this moment the viewers who you owe everything to, because that's why you're in that position, are depending on you not to allow this person to come on the platform and say things maybe that are not true, or to ask the questions to get the truth out of that person. And I think sometimes plenty of people take that role for granted. The duty, the respect that people put and that trust that they put in us as journalists. And it comes down to just knowing all the sides. And you're not going to know everything. But I think with experience, and that E word comes up again, you're going to know if somebody is taking you for a fool. You're going to know if somebody is telling you the truth, because you would have done this multiple times. So even now, from the moment a guest starts talking to me, and we do like, okay, so let's just say campaign for the GFF elections. And I'm using Jamaica because, that's where most of the participants are based. Well, all of y'all are based, actually. I would know when the candidates are telling me nonsense, because let's just say they're the president now, and they had a manifesto before, and then we're talking to them now and they're saying, okay, well, next time we run, we're going to do ABCD. But then I'm looking at the old manifesto and nothing was done from the last time. So I'm going to say, no, in 2014, you would have promised to build all these football grounds, these pitches and all of this, and nothing was done. So how can you sit on my show now and tell me that you're going to do it next year? What's the difference from 2014 to now? So, but again, it comes with listening to all the interviews, listening to what they would have said when they campaigned the first time before. So, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it is so important to be prepared, because these people are going to come on and make you look like a fool.
So okay, so you get in a situation where you're challenging the person on stuff that they said or didn't say or didn't do. And I can imagine it can get very heated. They can get a little defensive and upset. But part of your job is to make sure that you can probably do it again soon with the same person. How do you maintain a relationship like that? How do they know? How do you maintain the credibility and whilst also the relationship, especially in a situation where they're not being, fully transparent?
It's really tricky. If I'm being honest, it's very tricky, because once a guest comes on and they don't feel like you have their best interests at heart, that can very well be your last interview with them. I've had people that came on my show and said that they're not going to be interviewed by A and B. They just want C to interview them alone. Now, it's really up to the team and the producers to decide how important is that interview, where you ask your other host to stand down and just allow one other person to interview them because they requested that. There are some guests that felt as if certain journalists didn't have their best interests at heart and they were never invited to press conferences again, right? You ask how I deal with that. Well, the truth is, I think one, it has to do with my personality and my style of interviewing. So when somebody comes on, I'm going to say, we're going to talk about this election and I'm going to bring up things that would have happened before. But what I tend to do, Andrew, is I don't do it in a distasteful manner. I just basically cite what would have happened. Nobody wants to come on and feel attacked. And there are some journalists that have that style where they, attack and they would draw on personal things and all of that. It's not my style. And I think that has helped me to maintain my relationships while still getting the information that I want.
All right. Good advice there. So in the world of media, of course, there are different considerations, in particular legal and ethical considerations.
Yeah.
You went to Karimak. Where did you do media?
Well, I'm Trini, so
right.
I went to school in Trinidad, UE, St. Augustine.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some of the legal teachings or considerations that you take with you every day into the media room?
You say legal considerations. I actually don't really think about it too much, and I'll tell you why. Because it comes back down to fact checking and making sure that your information is accurate. Now, if you do that, which might sound very simple, you're not going to really land up in any legal trouble. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some bullies in the sport industry that even if you repeat something that they said, and I mean, they said it, so I'm reading it in quote, and I'm speaking from experience. They're going to send you a reaction protocol letter, right?
Right.
Because they're trying now to intimidate you for doing your job, which you just need to know. You need to be able to, you're not going to go on the air and defame somebody. You're not going to go on the air and slander somebody because then that's room for defamation. But if you are going on and you have proper information, you have proper evidence, you have people to support what you're saying, then I think that distinguishes different types of journalists. Because, a lot of people, I did an investigative journalism course. Dion was she was actually my mentor, Dion Jackson Miller.
Right.
And she's done a lot of investigative cases, but people will attack you when you speak up for certain things. And it goes for all different aspects of life. So I think once you know that you have the information and what you're saying is right, you shouldn't be bullied into, oh, somebody's going to send you a pre-action protocol letter. You know what? If you're right, you can go to court and you can still win, right? Because you didn't do anything wrong. So personally, you just need to make sure that what you're going to put out into the public is correct.
There's a saying, because I work in digital social media, is like, there's that post where he's like, should I post this? Like this might be taking it over the edge, but usually they say those are the ones that go viral. So it's like, you have to do a little balancing act and just make sure that you are in a safe ground when you are speaking on a topic. It goes back to research.
Yeah, know what you're talking about.
Exactly, know what you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, accuracy, and I guess consent. So I don't know how much investigative journalism you're involved with, but like recording somebody when they're not, when they don't know they're being recorded, things like that people would probably do.
No,
well, I into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, that's very unethical because I always think too, we're all humans, right? What you wouldn't want to be done to you, you shouldn't do it to others. And that's just like a basic life principle. So there's no way, and I've never done this, thank God, because I won't be able to sleep, that I'd record somebody without letting them know. Because how do you, like, let's just say it's into a legal matter and you go to court. What are you going to say? Because you're going to put your own self in trouble, right? Because one of the first things you do when you're calling somebody and you say, hi, I'm calling for some information, so I'm going to start recording now. And worse yet, if the person said off the record and you're recording, like, those things can land you in trouble for sure. So you avoid doing that. You have to let the person know it's their right.
Yeah, it's proper disclosure. So that's one thing I think we definitely take away.
Yeah, please don't record anybody's calls.
So you get their you get their consent. You did the interview. You are now preparing to put it out there. Talk to us about that process after the interview. Is there anything that you make sure to do in terms of follow up, or in terms of reviewing the material, highlighting what's important? What's your process like?
Well, I do a live show for those of you that watch the Sportsmax Zone. So there's no opportunity to really, once you go live, you're live, you're on. So what goes out is out. I don't get to make a mistake and then delete the mistake and fix it up and then put out a pretty part. If I mess up live and then I become a meme or something. So the process is a bit different when you're doing a live show. I also host, in case you missed it, which is pre-recorded. It's just a one-on-one interview with different guests that I feel like I just want to chat with for a longer period of time. That I get the opportunity to edit, but I still don't edit it too much. I actually hate doing take twos. I hate having to do back something again. I'm much rather live, and I think it came with sitting on the show and being comfortable. So like whenever you tell me take two, it's like you're literally shouting at me. I don't want to do a take two. But with that particular interview, let's just say like there were technical difficulties or the audio was off. I get the opportunity to like fix things like that. Or if after the interview is done, I've never had this happen, but let's just say the guest said something that they felt like, I maybe shouldn't have told you that. And it might get me in trouble. I might lose my job. I think then it comes down to me to make that decision as a person. Are you going to put the person through that and, get them into problems, or are you going to take it out? But again, I've never really had an interview where somebody called me back and said, okay, Mariah, don't put that or anything like that.
Well, I guess, live show is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, it's not straightforward, but like different. But how do you when you put together the material? I guess I don't know. Do you share it with them before you air it? Do you get their opinion back on it, or that's not there?
When you're live?
No, when you do like the in case you missed it kind of session. No.
No, it's just it's done like if it's live.
Yeah.
It's done like that, but it's pre-recorded. They never really asked to see it. I think most of them are fairly comfortable. I remember one of them in particular asked me, how did I sound, or do you think you need to fix anything? Do you need to tighten it up or anything? And I told her not to worry, but she was really young. I think she was like 17, just making her debut for West Indies. So really nervous about it and stuff. There were areas that she would have stuttered and all of that. And because I knew that she didn't want to come across like that, I had the editor like where she froze, like cut that freezing part out. But
Right.
most of them are, seasoned and everything. But I'm just more, I feel a bit more inclined to help in the younger ones. So I kind of look out for them and make sure that their thing goes well.
Okay. Well, is there anything else in terms of any other tips that you would really want to provide for someone? I know we talked a lot about interviewing, and I don't know if we spoke that much about research. But we did try to go over the points in terms of like resources for research. For someone who's in high school now and probably schoolboy football is going on, do you have any resources or any more recommendations for them in terms of getting their information? Like
Yeah.
historical information? Oh my goodness, so hard.
I would say just the regular ones, the trusted ones. So in sport, like my go-to, I think it's saved on my tab and it's actually on right now as well, BBC Sport. You can't go wrong with BBC Sport. I love Sky Sports as well. Had the opportunity to visit their studio, had the opportunity to meet some of like my dream presenters and all of that. They as well, I think they've really earned their reputation. So those two sites are like my go-to. And all day I'm refreshing BBC to see what's going on BBC Sport. So those two I would say are go-tos. Unless they're going to sit in a library and read books like before the interview. You see, because my day is very fast-paced, it's a bit different, right? So I'm trying to read on my weekends, but every day my show goes live at 4:30. So it's like I have from when I wake up to when I go live to be an expert on these topics. And I can't go sit in a library all day and try to prep for this. So the fastest thing now, and luckily we have the internet and all these sites. And these sites are really good because they keep updating on all the various information. Twitter as well.
Right.
Call it X now. Like once it's verified sites, and there are all of the media houses are on Twitter now. And I'm not saying please do not go on Twitter and just take anybody's word for gospel. Please don't, because there are a lot of mad people on there as well. But like the respectable sites, like as I said, the same ones, BBC, CNN, there are a lot of journalists as well that the first thing they do is post on Twitter, and they're credible sources because they have access to information. They are the ones interviewing for these websites. So I have a couple of them that I have on like standby, and the moment something happens, I'm checking this thing on Twitter. But again, it has to be credible sources, not
Right.
your friend, the man next door, something like that. No.
Do you find any particular, like, is it difficult to get information on any particular sport, or like more difficult than another? Have that you pick up, because I brought up schoolboy football. Probably on the media side, it's I don't know how easy it would be to find out who was the top goal scorer for last year, something like that. So
Well, they're doing better now. There's a website now the ISSA website. So
Right. So the
things-
ISSA website is a good place to get resources from. Good. But yeah, I know BBC isn't covering all of our
but
local
Sportsmax is. We have it
Sportsmax.
on YouTube.
Yes, I mean, like maybe Sportsmax can invest in some kind of like data bank or something like that with these historical data. I don't know. I've had that issue. I've definitely had that issue, and I can see it being something going forward. Probably we just don't know where to go to, and we need to share it a little bit more. But yeah. I want to open up the floor for question and answers. Maria's very excited to answer all of your questions. I think that's
I love questions.
part. So guys, I see we have about five have joined us. Guys, if you open the chat, you can message your questions and we will get them to Mariah, and she will answer them. So please let us know. Send us your questions. In the meantime, while those questions come in, I don't know if you want to give us maybe like a cool example of an interview that you thought went really, really well or really, really poorly. I don't know, like on what you could have done differently in that situation. I don't know. Well, how was today?
I mean, what did we do today? So today was a good show. I think so. I made a lot of notes about technical stuff that didn't go the way I wanted. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. But with regards to the content, so we started the show talking about Manchester United sacking their coach, Eric Ten Hag. Big discussion. I get so excited because I'm a Manchester City fan. So I'm so animated when it comes to discussing English Premier League topics and everything. So we did that. We talked a lot about West Indies cricket. We spoke about schoolboy football in Jamaica, the Manning Cup. It's in the round of 16 now. So we spoke about that match with KC, that KC won. Then we spoke about the match that was drawn. So, I mean, a lot of Caribbean content, but that topic with Manchester United as well was a hot one.
You guys didn't discuss Campion beating Georges 3-0?
No, you see, as I said, the timing of the segment. So we tried to just do the ones that were televised. But I'm sure we'll talk about Campion another time.
Another time, yeah. But that was interesting. Yeah, they had a lot of exciting matches over the weekend. Not seen any questions just yet, guys.
Guys, what's wrong?
I'm sure some will come in soon. But what's in terms of like coming up now? In terms of the sports I know we're in the round of 16 and 32 for Manning Cup and the Costa Cup. Is there anything that you are particularly looking forward to? Sports-wise, locally?
I mean, West Indies is playing in the Caribbean starting, I think it's later this month. Yeah, West Indies versus England. They play in Antigua. They play in St. Lucia, and I think some in Trinidad.
They come to Jamaica as well?
How? Jamaica doesn't have any cricket matches right now.
I thought there was a Okay, everyone is now on the call, so the mic, you can unmute your mics and ask questions. Thanks, Jessica, for doing that.
Email. Thank you so much. He said that they weren't able to type in the chat. It's so weird that it says everybody can send messages.
I thought they didn't.
Sorry about that, guys. All right.
There we go. I knew. All right. So Bevan, please correct me in the pronunciation of your name. Now I know. I could be saying it wrong, but you're asking a question. Could you share techniques, Mariah, for effectively managing and organizing large volumes of interview data for analysis?
So large volumes of data. He's asking me to manage. Bevan is asking me such a hard question. All right, Bevan. Let's.
Bevan, you can actually speak if you want. If you want to clarify anything, you can unmute your mic.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
you hear me.
Okay, yeah. So like a large one. So not you said you do mostly live interviews and things of that nature, but maybe I'm talking from on the featured side. So like you're doing various interviews and you have to analyze the information that you have received to contextualize it and probably written material or even short media versions to distribute the information you have gained from said interview. So I just want to know, how would you gather all that large information that you have collected and contextualize it into something not only giving the audience information, but information that is attractive, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're asking. So you're thinking like they give me a whole heap of data, let's just say after a match, and now I'm taking all of this information and I need to make it pretty, I'll just say that, creative, and ensure that the viewers can make sense out of this, right? Because now it's my job to make it as seamless as possible. And remember, Bevan, we have to remember that people's attention span very, very short these days. So nobody wants me to sit on air now and read out, let's just say, all of those numbers for them. So what I would do is like, I would find different ways to, of course, present that information. So who was, let's just talk about, I'm talking cricket because I really, really love cricket, right? So let's just say, who was the top run scorer from the entire competition, or the top three, as opposed to literally sitting on air now and trying to read every person that took part in the cricket match and all the scores. Nobody's going to sit down and listen to me. So I take that and I say, okay, so for this entire cricket season, Deandra Dottin, a West Indies female cricketer, she was the top run scorer with, let's just say, 300 runs. Who was the top wicket taker? Afi Fletcher. She got 15 wickets at the end of the competition. Who got the most ducks? They were out for 0. And the thing is, people tend to listen to information when you present it in that type of manner. So you find trends, you find things that would stand out, patterns and all of that, and you present it in that way. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. Do we have another one?
Yes, Alika Reed, she's asking, other than getting background information from various sources you already mentioned, are there any other sources that you would suggest? And Alika, you can also unmute if you want to ask a follow-up on that question. But yes, Mariah.
Yeah, so I don't know, Alika, if you joined when I had said the part about, calling around, because I think there's no better way than getting that sort of first-hand information. What I tend to do too is, because my colleagues are like a lot senior to me, Lance has been in this business way before I was even born, right? So he has a different type of contacts and information that even I don't have access to. So like from time to time, when I'm prepping, I'll just message Lance and say, hey, on my show today, because I do a show alone every week, I'm interviewing Shea Hope, right? West Indies cricketer. What do you think I must get out of this interview? And I ask it in a smart way, like, what should I leave this interview and I have to ask? Like, I can't do this interview and not ask it. And sometimes Lance will tell me something that I wouldn't even have thought about. So sometimes your sources can just very well be your colleagues right around you, as opposed to like going everywhere and trying to find that information. Sometimes the people are right here in your same industry. So I'd probably bounce out something with my co-host and say, today I'm going to interview this person and I have no clue what they've been up to lately. And Lance would be like, I spoke to them last week and they're taking part in this competition. And just through that little conversation, you can find out so much more things. But the key is to always ask a question. Don't be afraid to ask.
Thanks. There's an excellent point. There's also, I was nodding furiously when you're like, the person can be right beside you, because I remember situations where, like I'm in the stadium or anything and it's just like, I don't know what I'm going to ask this person. And you start talking with somebody else about it, and then immediately something comes up and like a hot topic or something, and you're like, okay, great question. So once you keep that communication with fans or like our colleagues or anything like that, you're gonna have something to say, and it's gonna. I guess you have to trust them as well if you're gonna use their stories.
Well, I need to fact check. Somebody else, yeah.
Ruth Ann Sanderson. Mariah, how do you approach group interviews? That's what she's asking.
I like the question. Actually find that to be a really relevant question, and I don't know why Andrew didn't ask me that in his list of questions. But thank you.
Coming from Ruth Ann. All right, let's go.
Yeah. So Ruth Ann is onto this, like she's like a real journalist here. So for me, that's tricky because sometimes on my set, I'd be interviewing like, let's just say 3 or 4 people, right? And I'd be like, hi, so welcome to the show. And then they all want to respond at the same time. So you're trying not to do that. You don't give them the opportunity because they're all going to talk over each other. So I'd be like, so let's just say it's Mona High School, the team that won the Manning Cup, and all these students are there. And I would be like, so, today we're going to be talking to Mona High. They're the defending Manning Cup champions. Welcome to the show. So, Carlton. And I start, so by even just saying that, everybody knows that, no, I'm not, all of you not going to respond. This one is for Carlton. And then you ask Carlton a question, and then you say, so based on what Carlton said, how do you feel the team chemistry has been? And then you say the other person. So the key is to actually know the different guests on the set, because then how else are you going to differentiate? Because you can't sit here and say, well, this one right here. And so you understand, it would make you look like you don't know what you're talking about. So the key in those group settings to know the names of the people, I would say, so you can directly call on them, as to avoid everybody speaking on top of each other. And at least try to get each one of them to say something, because why would you have all of them on the set and some not speaking and some speaking? So that would be my baby tip that I would do.
I mean, that was an excellent tip, and that was an excellent question. Thank you, Ruthann.
Yeah, Ruthann has got this going on.
I've never done a group interview, so I didn't cross my mind, but it must be difficult. It's challenging.
Yeah.
Abigail has a question. She says, what sparked your interest in journalism, and how did you know it was for you?
So let's just say initially I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, because I knew I wanted to talk for life. I just didn't know in what capacity, and y'all have the opportunity to talk to me. I didn't get that chance to speak to people on TV and all of that. And then as a youngster, you can't really go message these people. They're not going to respond. That's the truth. None of them. I'm probably going to go into their archive or their message requests on Instagram, and they're never going to reply to me. So again, I'm so happy that you all have this forum. So I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Cool. Going to school, doing all of this, doing the law courses and everything. And then I think I picked up a communication course at UE. I signed up and I did it. And I remember doing an internship at a TV station, and all they had me doing was like writing for the newspaper. And the moment I started to do that, I was like, I wanted to transfer, because I'm like, I don't think I want to write. I want to talk, and I want to have these conversations with people, and I want to tell their stories. And again, it really just stemmed from that internship. When I got that chance at that media house, I knew this was for me. Like, I knew I wanted to share the stories of other people. And I think because I'm that type of person that I tend to feel what another person is going through. So like, if you were to sit here and say, Mariah, I'm in sport, but I don't have the finances to get this done, I feel like it's my duty now to help in any way that I can. Maybe just by letting the rest of the public know, okay, Anika is interested in playing sport. She doesn't have the financial needs. And through that simple interview, somebody watching can, of course, probably reach out. Maybe they won't, but what if they do? And I think that need to help. And also, for those of you that don't know, my sister plays cricket for West Indies. And I would remember her coming home after training and, like sharing little things that would have happened, or behind the scene things that I felt like a lot of journalists were not showing. And I think all of these different things, just to be that voice, to let people know some of the harsh realities of sport, is what sort of pushed me to do it. And I'm so happy that I actually picked it up.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. We have another question as well, Mariah, from Ruthann. So she says one that really resonates with me, because, you try to find a different question to ask the individual athletes, especially when you're doing stuff online, because you're posting constantly and different people, you're like, what am I ask this person? They're just finished the same 200-meter race, all these things. Anyways, she's saying, how differently do you interview someone when your prepared questions become common, especially in a panel or off-track setting? How do you not be common?
Yeah, that's so important, because the truth is, if, let's just say, somebody just interviewed Bevan on his statistics and just winning this Olympic gold medal, there are some basic questions they're going to ask.
What do you feel?
Yeah, what was it feeling after the race? What were you thinking when the race was on? Just know that the race is probably 9 seconds. You ain't thinking anything.
Who do
But
you want to dedicate this to?
yeah, like, you already know those are questions people are going to ask. I like to, and it's just my style, I like to just get into the emotional aspect of certain things. And maybe they might say, because you're a woman, but who cares? I want to know where you came from. For me, was this always in the cards? Because most time, people that are successful, they have like these deep, deep stories that nobody really ever knows about. And truthfully, some people don't even care because they only recognize them when they win this gold medal or they're a superstar and all of that. I like to know where you come from because I feel like where you come from, it has a lot to do with who you are as a person. So I tend to ask like really strange questions, and I think it brings out this beauty. As I said, I want to see myself as a storyteller. I love to listen to stories. So I tend to ask things like that because the truth is we can all go on Google and find out how much seconds he ran that race for, what he did after the match, how he prepared, who his coach is. Like all those things are readily available. But I think to myself, like, I'm getting this one shot to chat with this person. I don't want to see something that's on Google. I want to know like where you came from. Where in Trinidad do you live? How did your village help you to develop into such an athlete? Was it always this easy? And what about when you wanted to give up? Like, so that's just my style. But again, all of you are going to develop your own style. Maybe you all might come across as, you might want to ask a different angle or know something else. But it's just what I tend to do.
Oh, that's such a good answer. Thank you for that.
That's the truth. It's not a good answer. It's what I do.
Oh, sorry. I mean, that was really helpful for me personally. That's what I was trying to say. I appreciate that. Hey, everyone that's in here, we'll have a few minutes left, and I know we're all trying to become reporters, so I wouldn't mind hearing you if you unmute your mic and you want to ask. Put Mariah on the grill.
And I want to hear your voice too. Let me see what type of voices I have here.
Yeah, Abigail, you have a question. Do you want to ask it personally, or should I ask it for you?
Ask me, no?
Yeah, come on, Abigail, unmute. If you're in a quiet environment or suitable area, or Aliko or Abigail.
Good night.
Hi.
So, in the Jamaican society and people overall, they can be rude and stuff. So I just wanted to know, how do you handle confrontational or rude interviewees?
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And Abigail, you asked that, and I think Alexa spoke about it in her session with you all as well. Worse yet, if you're a young girl or a young woman or anything like that, and people feel like you're not supposed to know. So what I tend to do is, well, first of all, I don't really deal with rudeness. And if you watch my show, you would know I'm very straightforward. I will say it as it is. So I'd probably ask you if you're having a bad day. But I tend not to get those. Thank God. I've never really tried to interview somebody and they were so rude to me. But I've had people that said to me, I don't think I want to talk to you because you went on the show and you said A, B, C, D. And I'm like, but did you wonder why I said that? And maybe you should tell me your side because, like, I've had a lot of cricketers and footballers who wrote to me and said, this interview that you all did was wrong, right? The person that came on didn't say the right thing. And my response to that would be, well, why don't you come on? Why don't you come on and share your side of what's actually happening? Because at the end of the day, we're going to report on who are speaking up, who's talking about a situation. So back to your question about how do I deal with rude people? Most times people aren't rude based on, the respect and the way you carry about yourself. But if they were to be rude, I'd probably just ask them, like, is it that you don't want to talk right now? Do you think, when you get in a better mood? And I tend to find that when you don't fight fire with fire, people tend to come around, right? So let's just say I came on in this interview with y'all and I'm behaving like, I don't want to hear anything y'all have to say. I'm just speaking here by myself and all of that. Then of course y'all are not going to be receptive to me and won't want to hear what I have to say either. So I think it goes both ways. And again, your reputation is so important. Don't walk around like this rude person to other people, and you'll realize that what you give is exactly what you're going to get back.
Agreed, completely. Alika has a question. Alika, you want to unmute and ask it directly to Mariah? I know I skipped one of them, but you can ask both of them.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Right.
So, I remember if you had give an answer to this question, but what active listening skills do you employ during interviews? And can you share an example of a particular challenging research task and how you overcame it?
A particular one? I just missed the last part.
No, the question was, can you share an example of a particular challenging research task and basically how you overcame that task?
Yeah, a challenging research task. Okay, so active listening skills. This is something we would think is very basic, right? When we're having a conversation, you're going to want to listen if you're interested, right? So the truth is, you're human. You will zone off if something is not interesting to you, if you feel like it's not engaging. But the truth is, I'm being paid to do this. We have to remember that. So that I have no excuses to be zoning out on the people's show. That's my job, right? So what I tend to do, and this you say active listening skills, is one of the things I tend to do is when we're having a discussion, even if I'm not on screen or not, because I have a co-host as well, I try not to be on my phone and all these different things. And I have a pen that if the person is saying something, I jot down like a 1 point, or let's just say like you're talking about empowering women in sport, right? I would just put like women or girls or like future generation, just little things, because we're all humans and you have to remember that. I'm not sitting there like a recorder going to remember everything that this man is saying. So I tend to always have a piece of paper on me and a pen, and I'd make like little notes, and then I say, okay, so he's talking about women, right, in sport, but I want to ask him, from based on what he's saying and the way the discussion is going, what are the plans for like younger girls? Do you have things in place for the next generation of women? Like, right, great, these women are doing good now, but what about the little girls? And just by writing down that little point, I know, okay, because sometimes the discussion might go another way. And then, as I said, I have other hosts on the show, and Lance might ask something, and then I forget what I want to ask because the discussion is going all around. So a simple thing and I mean, as I said, we're all humans. We're going to forget. Things are going on in your personal life. Just write it down. Just write a little note. Now, don't sit on air and write down word for word, because there's no way you're going to get that done. But like a one word, so that when it comes back to you, you have it. Challenging. You told me something about challenging.
So yes, the question was, was there a research task that was particularly challenging for you, I guess, to find the information that you needed, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I feel like the same thing Andrew said about not having access to a lot of Caribbean information, I would say. So like, let's just say I want to cover like, I don't want to say netball, because now netball is turned into a big deal, but let's just say rifle shooting, because I did an interview on that last week, Friday. They had an event in Jamaica where, the rifle shooters can, of course, advance to the next level and all of that. But that sort of information is not readily available because not everybody does that sport. So one of the things I would have done is just call the office and ask a couple of things. But the time, I'm so swamped for time that I really have to and it's a challenge because, as I said, it's not like where I could go on the BBC and type up rifle shooting in Jamaica and get information. That's a zero, that's no. So what I tend to do in those cases is I ask a question like a regular person that don't know. And I keep saying it's okay not to know. Like, you can start the interview by saying, you're the first person in rifle shooting that I would have interviewed on this show. And I'm so interested in finding out, like, one, how do I sign up? Two, who is the best rifle shooter in Jamaica? And you ask, and you be really honest. One of the things about TV and the media is you can't really trick people. If you pretend, they're gonna know that you don't know. So you might as well just say at the start. And the thing is, because it's a talk show, I say like, okay, so this is a really cool subject. I've never been to rifle shooting before, but I'm so excited. So can you tell me? And that's okay.
I love that point, Mariah. Sorry, I cut you off. But I mean, I just sometimes people think of like not ignorance, but lack of knowledge as something to be embarrassed about. But one of the most disarming things is saying, I don't know, tell me more about it. And it's showing them interest and they're getting excited because usually they want to talk about it. That's such a good point. We are at the end of this time, but I mean, this was a great discussion. I'm not running you just yet. Well, Mariah, I know you're still at the office.
Yeah.
And it is 8:05. We want to get you home safe and before it's too late.
Thank you.
But guys, thank you so much for coming out again tonight. And we had some questions, some excellent questions. Mariah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody that answered and asked me questions, because I would have been so sad if y'all didn't ask me.
We've learned so much. And you raised your hand. You wanted to say something at the end. I think we have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I would just say thank you, Mariah. I had another question, but I can't ask it now. But thank you, Mariah. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for spending the time with us.
I appreciate it, and I hope that maybe one day y'all can apply for internships at Sportsmax, or just reach out, because I'm kind of, well, now that I know your names, I would be very responsive. I can remember most of the names. So
we'll share them with you as well, Mariah.
They can ask me. Y'all can send me messages and ask me whatever, because I'm happy that I can be of at least some help.
Yeah, this is another good session, guys. Mariah, we want to let you go. I know you're downtown, and I don't know where you're going after that. But we want to ask all the participants here just for some feedback so far on the program, how we can improve it, anything like that for right now. But Mariah, again, thank you so much. We will talk after this. You'll be in touch, and I'm looking forward to doing this again sometime soon.